If you don't believe that conspiracies exist involving lost ancient civilizations, well, by the end of this video, you'll likely think otherwise, as what I'm about to show you is alarming to say the least. In fact, the disturbing details that I've recently uncovered involving the circumstances at the world's oldest pyramidal structure took me by total surprise. The site of Gunung Padang in Indonesia has created a firestorm of attention over the last few years, as this potentially 27,000-year-old structure could stand to upend the known narrative of ancient human civilizations, as it was thought to be totally impossible for primitive prehistoric cavemen to be able to geoengineer a mountainous hilltop into a series of 5 step-like terraces, which many described as being the world's oldest pyramid-like formation. However, very little is known about this mysterious site, as we do not know exactly who created it or when, but at some point in the distant past, an ancient civilization carried literally hundreds of thousands of volcanic stones up this steep mountainous hill and created various structures that once stood here thousands of years ago. And today, the ruinous landscape of those remnants is all that remains. That and many unanswered questions. However, the man-made nature of this site is well established, and although many will debate on whether it should be classified as an actual pyramid, the reality is that whatever you want to label it is totally inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, as it was undoubtedly created by an unknown group of ancient people, as archaeologists have confirmed. However, the intense debate involves just how old this structure actually is, and what could be discovered if this site were to be dug and fully excavated, which, surprisingly, it has not. In fact, various archaeologists have been consumed by discussion as to the legitimacy of the 27,000-year dating itself, as scientific papers have been published and later retracted, further leading to the firestorm of debate as to just how ancient the site actually is. Make no mistake, we do not actually know just how old Gunung Padang is, and most of the recent evidence neither confirms nor denies that it could be the oldest ancient structure on Earth, as further study is required to ascertain a precise dating. But this is where things start to get interesting. As you may recall, Graham Hancock's hit Netflix series Ancient Apocalypse brought this ancient site international attention, where he showcased the use of ground-penetrating radar that was conducted at Gunung Padang, which identified a subterranean tunnel connecting to a chamber or cavity, in which the surrounding soil was dated to approximately 27,000 years old. But to be clear, any existing ancient artifacts have not actually dated to that period of time. But the bizarre reality is that an appropriate archaeological excavation has not actually taken place that would confirm otherwise, which has only intensified the debate as to whether this subterranean anomaly is an actual man-made structure centered at the heart of this mysterious and incredibly old site, or, as the skeptics loudly suggest, it could simply be a natural anomaly, such as a cave or a lava tube created during the formation of this hill long ago, which in itself is volcanic in nature. However, experts who have physically worked at the site, such as highly credentialed geologist Professor Danny Hillman of the Indonesian Institute of Sciences, and by the way has 176 publications and over 8,500 scholarly citations, and he has adamantly insisted that his interpretation of the ground-penetrating radar data strongly warrants an excavation into the tunnel and chamber, as it has strong potential to be a man-made construct. And keep in mind, he has decades of experience as a geologist, which is exactly the field of studied profession that would be most qualified to interpret this type of data, which is exactly why Graham Hancock has firmly advocated that this site requires further study and excavation to find out exactly what lays buried under these mysterious ancient ruins, especially considering just how enormous the implications are. I mean, can you imagine what could be waiting to be discovered inside a potentially 27,000-year-old chamber? It would literally rewrite history and be arguably the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time. So enough discussion and debate already. Let's send archaeologists to go digging so we can find out exactly what it is. And who could possibly be opposed to excavating this subterranean anomaly? I mean, on one side, you have the naysayers screaming that it's probably a natural formation, like they say about everything, whereas those with an open mind and that carry a spirit of exploration and discovery want to find out the answer. And ultimately, we will never know until we dig and find out. So with that said, what exactly is the holdup? Well, this is where things go from interesting to quite strange. Because if you're thinking to yourself that perhaps this has something to do with a lack of funding or resources, I'm here to tell you that that just isn't the case, as the Indonesian government stated a full decade ago that they are offering unlimited funding to researchers that are trying to uncover whether this mountain holds one of history's biggest discoveries. And although that was a long time ago, and that offer does not appear to have been upheld, and in fact, the authorities within the Indonesian government are now saying that they will not be the ones to fund it. Hence the non-existent archaeological excavation, which has not happened and has remained at a standstill for the last 10 years since 2014. So I'll ask again, what is the holdup? Well, before I take you down the dark rabbit hole of what I uncovered, it's important that I remind you of what I shared in my recent video involving the disturbing updates surrounding Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, as it will further highlight just how dark the situation is at Gunung Padang. As I previously outlined, the current state of affairs involving excavations at Göbekli Tepe has been, as far as I'm concerned, corrupted, as the tentacles of the World Economic Forum have seemingly infiltrated excavation management at one of the world's oldest, largest, and most mysterious ancient sites. As a 20-year partnership was established in 2016 involving the Doges Group, which is a Turkish conglomerate that has been made the sole partner of excavations and tourism management at this site. They are the ones making decisions here, and they have unlimited funding and resources as well. And I was astonished to learn that the CEO of the Doges Group is a longtime member of the World Economic Forum. And by the way, that 20-year partnership was literally announced at the annual WF meeting in Davos, which only makes this entire situation that much more bizarre. But moreover, everything that's happened at this site since the partnership was established speaks volumes. Whether it's the destruction of priceless ancient ruins that were destroyed when they built the infrastructure for tourism, which started following the partnership with the Doges Group, which included multiple roofs, viewing platforms, concrete sidewalks, and asphalt roads, which again were constructed over ruins, which caused destructions of those relics. But if that wasn't bad enough, all of this infrastructure is now clearly preventing a full excavation of this site, as they would have to physically remove the asphalt roads, sidewalks, roofs, and viewing platforms to do so. And by the way, you may recall me asking in my prior video the sincere question as to whether the 4 sets of tree orchards were planted over any ancient ruins at this site. Because as you can see, they're literally sitting in the middle of the site itself. Well, I regret to tell you that I did some research, and the answer is unfortunately yes. In fact, you can see the before and after photos. These orchards were planted a full decade after excavations began. In fact, I got in touch with an archaeologist who physically conducted excavations at Göbekli Tepe, and I was shocked to learn that all of these trees were indeed planted on top of buried ruins at Göbekli Tepe, which raises many questions and only further validates that there is no intention in the foreseeable future to fully excavate this site, as they would have to cut them all down to do so. And by the way, they've made every excuse in the book to justify the existence of these trees, stating that they will help preserve the ruins from erosion. But give me a break. These ruins have been safely buried underground for nearly 12,000 years. And I even heard others try to explain that the planting of these olive trees would increase the value of the land. Really? Göbekli Tepe is one of the oldest and largest ancient sites on Earth, and the land is already priceless. But if all of this isn't bad enough, what is most alarming is that since the Doges Group took control of this site and again became the sole partner of excavation management, they have inexplicably chosen to defer a full excavation to, quote, future generations. In fact, it's been said that it may be 150 years before excavations are complete, as they want to focus on excavating other ancient sites in Turkey, thus leaving Göbekli Tepe at just 5% excavated. That's right, approximately 95% of the ruins at this site are still buried, which, by the way, is exactly how I came to start my investigation involving the archaeological progress at this site, as I was shocked to learn that that 5% figure hadn't changed in the last 7 years since 2017, and that same figure was corroborated by a professional guide to Göbekli Tepe as recently as 2023. Which makes absolutely no justifiable sense for there to be no substantial or measurable progress in all that time. And Although small-scale excavations do continue today, there is no active plan to fully excavate the well over 100 pillars that remain buried. Only 72 pillars out of approximately 200 have been unearthed. Pillars, which, like I said before, tell us a story. This site has massive historical importance and could lead to answers regarding our mysterious lost ancient past. But as of today, none of us will be alive to see it fully excavated, which should disturb any true enthusiast of ancient history. How could any of us feel content with living the rest of our lives not knowing what is waiting to be discovered here? So I'll ask again, why on earth are members of the World Economic Forum even remotely associated with excavation management at Göbekli Tepe, and why would they defer excavations to future generations? And that question right there is the perfect segue to circle back to Gunung Padang in Indonesia, and the question as to what is the holdup preventing a full archaeological excavation at that site, particularly into the subterranean tunnel and chamber. And this is where things go from interesting and strange to downright disturbing. But let me very quickly mention the sponsor of this video. An extremely important conversation that not enough people are having involves spike proteins being the culprit behind a whole host of long-term health issues that we're seeing happen in real time. If you or a loved one has been vaccinated or is suffering from long COVID and any subsequent long-term side effects, now is the time to look into the Base Spike Detox Trio from the Wellness Company. This trio formula combines ingredients that have been researched to block and dissolve COVID spike protein in the bloodstream. And the doctors at the Wellness Company provide answers and hope through a revolutionary supplement called the Base Spike Detox Trio. Hundreds of people, vaccinated or not, have reported better mental clarity and increased energy levels after taking spike support daily. This could be the key to getting back to that pre-COVID feeling. Head over to www.twc.health/brightinsight and use promo code BRIGHTINSIGHT to save 10% at checkout with the Wellness Company. The link is in the description and the pinned comment down below. Now, as I was just saying, this is where things go from interesting and strange to downright disturbing. Because again, obviously any reasonable person would support the further study and excavation of Gunung Padang. So I took it upon myself to find out exactly who the key decision makers are at Gunung Padang, those who have the decision-making power to excavate this site or not, and I could not believe what I uncovered. I learned of a gentleman by the name of Hilmar Farid, who is the Director General of Culture at Indonesia's Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology, who was quoted in a recent New York Times article from just a few months ago, saying in regards to further excavations at Gunung Padang, quote, "From the perspective of someone like me who has to mobilize resources to support certain activities," he said, "this is certainly the last priority." Wow, a last priority. In other words, there is no active or definitive plan in place to find out what the subterranean tunnel and chamber is. How can this be? We literally have scientific data, i.e. ground-penetrating radar, that has confirmed an anomaly at what could prove to be the most ancient site on Earth, and exploring to find out exactly what it is somehow a last priority. And that right there caused the wheels within my conspiracy brain to start moving, and I decided to dig further. Starting with Hilmar Farid, who, like I said, is the Director General of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology, which led me to want to know who this Director General reports to, which is when I learned of someone by the name of Nadiem Makarim, who is the actual minister of the ministry itself, a political position appointed by the President of Indonesia in 2021. And Nadiem is a former businessman and billionaire who had created a massively successful company called Gojek that he later resigned from upon taking his position as the minister. So I decided to look further into him, as his political position clearly ranks him as the true decision maker of what happens at Gunung Padang. And let's not forget, Director General Hilmar Farid, who said excavating Gunung Padang is his last priority, reports directly to the minister himself. And what I learned about Minister Makarim is the most disturbing part of this video. He is a member of the World Economic Forum and is in fact one of their global shapers, whose purpose is to implement the WEF's agenda throughout the world. In fact, just so you understand, listen to this short clip from Klaus Schwab where he openly brags about penetrating government cabinets throughout the world with his global shapers.
But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, is that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. We, in addition to the young global leaders, we have now the global shapers in 450 cities around the world.
And yes, a global shaper is exactly who Minister Makaram is, and he has been a longtime member of the World Economic Forum and is now placed within a government cabinet in Indonesia that controls the archaeological progress at Gunung Padang, which, like I've already stated, is at a standstill. And by the way, to those of you who do not understand what the WEF's agenda is, I'll refer you to the comment section of this video as I hope others will help inform you as to what their ultimate plan is. But it's something that everyone who's free on this earth needs to be aware of. These people have infiltrated governments, corporations, fields of science and education, and the news media as well. And as far as leadership and decision makers at Gunung Padang, all of this just gets deeper and more concerning from here. For example, like I said, Minister Nadiem Makarim was appointed by the President of Indonesia in 2021. However, the minister in the respective department before him, another Indonesian politician by the name of Babang Brajonaro, forgive my mispronunciation, is also associated with the World Economic Forum and has attended their annual meetings. Interesting, but it does not stop there. Remember Director General Hilmar Farid, who of course reports to the now Minister Makarim? Well, upon doing some creative internet searching, I came across this, which is that in 2019 he signed a pledge with the World Economic Forum, and apparently or seemingly in collaboration with Netflix, involving the control of digital information or literacy that would be shared with children and their parents' rights associated with it. Oh, I'm sure the intentions here are totally pure, and this has nothing to do with controlling or censoring information that would otherwise be taught to kids. But whatever this partnership is about, we must focus on the reality that the key decision makers who decide whether Gunung Padang will or will not be excavated are seemingly saturated with people that are part of the WEF. And what's wild is that that appears to be the case at what just so happens to be at two of the oldest and most mysterious ancient sites on planet Earth, both Göbekli Tepe and Gunung Padang. Both of which warrant a full excavation, but again, as of today, both are at a more or less standstill. Think about that. What are we to make of this? Now, as I continued down this thought-provoking rabbit hole, there was something else that came to my attention, which is the massive resistance within the media involving anything related to alternative ancient history. For example, there may be no other media outlet on Earth that has been more critical of Graham Hancock than The Guardian. In fact, they almost seem obsessed with tarnishing his reputation and his 3 decades of work. I mean, they have numerous headlines, or shall I say hit pieces, going as far as to state that Ancient Apocalypse was the most dangerous show on Netflix. Which, let's be real, that is one of the most absurd things I've heard. Really? Dangerous? But ridiculous headlines aside, I became curious as to why this particular media firm has been so inclined to relentlessly go after Graham Hancock. So I decided to investigate who their decision makers are within the organization. And I came across Catherine Viner, who is the editor-in-chief for The Guardian. And upon doing some more creative internet searching, I came across a Huffington Post article from several years ago, which I learned of something that I had never even heard of before, which are the so-called Supergirls of Davos, which were invited to a World Economic Forum meeting, which Catherine Viner was included with. And wow, take a moment to scan through some of the names that she was there with, literally stacked with many of the most powerful women on Earth. I won't bother reading out all the names, but really hit pause and browse through the list of them. It's kind of incredible. And although Miss Viner may not be an actual member of the WEF, I'm actually not sure if she is or not, but if nothing else, she is certainly part of the cool kids club there. Make of what you want from all of this, but the reality is that every single entity involved in deciding whether Gunung Padang is excavated, as well as the people in the media that control the narrative about it, are all deeply connected or associated with the WEF. Is that really just a coincidence? All I know is that what is arguably the two most mysterious ancient sites on Earth are at a more or less standstill when it comes to a meaningful archaeological excavation and finding out more answers about our lost ancient past. And that just does not sit well with me. And I find it extremely concerning that the WEF is even remotely associated with the progress or lack thereof that's happening at these sites. Leave a comment and share what your thoughts are on all of this, everything that's discussed in this video, and besides hitting the like button, share this video across the internet, whether on Reddit, Quora, Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter. We need to allow the court of public opinion to become aware of these circumstances because that is the only chance to have any sort of meaningful change. And also stay tuned, as tomorrow afternoon I will be doing a live stream involving this very topic, where I will be answering questions and discussing comments that have been made about this topic in itself. And that being said, go follow me on rumble.com. I'm trying to grow a presence there, and if you would like to support me, as well as have access to my videos the day before they come out public for everyone else, support me on locals.com or patreon.com. Preferably locals. I like them far more and they're far better to me. But that's a way of helping me out and you get something back in return. But that being said, I'll wrap this up here. Stay tuned to my live stream tomorrow and my next video, which will be the week after next. But I'm Jimmy Corsetti. My channel is called Bright Insight. Hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you all again real soon.